Hello guys, Pelekelo here at Words of Healthy podcast. So in my previous episode, which was episode 2, I discussed predisposing factors to asthmatic attack. So today I'm going to continue with the pneumonia under episode 3, which is again another condition that affects the respiratory system. And I guess most of you have been advised before that you should keep warm to avoid catching pneumonia. So at the end of this video, we're going to discuss either exposure to cold can make somebody have pneumonia. So stay tuned. So before I progress into the factors that can make somebody acquire pneumonia, let me take you through the respiratory system so that we can discuss the specific parts of the lungs that are affected during this pneumonia condition. Okay, so just a quick review of the respiratory system. You can see that on this diagram here, there is the nasal cavity. Of course, there is a nose there and the cavity, and then there's the mouth there, and there is the pharynx, which is the throat. Then there is larynx, which is the voice box. There is trachea there. Then we have bronchi. From the bronchi there, of course, we have the lungs. We have the right lung, we have the left lung. And as we progress, we have some structures known as bronchioles. Then from there, we have other structures known as the alveoli ducts. And then we have, of course, the alveoli, also known as the air sac. Then we have the diaphragm there. So these structures here, the nasal cavity, the throat, the larynx there, trachea, the bronchi, bronchioles, of course, they just facilitate the movement of air from the atmosphere to the lungs. So in this condition, pneumonia, the main structure that we're interested is the alveoli. So these lungs contains millions of these structures known as the alveoli, the air sacs, and in this condition, pneumonia, these are the structures that are affected. They do swell, accumulation of fluid in those structures, and people tend to experience chest pain, of course, due to inflammation or disease process. Before we progress to factors that tend to predispose somebody to pneumonia, what are some of the causes that are proven to cause pneumonia? Of course, pneumonia is caused by some infections such as bacterial infections, viral infections, fungi. So if you tend to be exposed to these microbial agents such as the same bacteria, the fungi, or the viruses, through maybe getting them from somebody who is suffering from pneumonia, as they cough without covering the nose, they can sneeze out some droplets that contain these microbial agents, and when you inhale them, they're going to travel through this trachea, they're going to travel through these air passageways, passing through the trachea there, the bronchioles, and they find themselves into the lower parts of the respiratory system, which are the lungs there. So if they tend to reach these areas, of course, they can cause infection to these parts, and this is how somebody can tend to have pneumonia. So pneumonia can be acquired either through inhaling droplets from somebody who is suffering from pneumonia, or maybe through blood. If you tend to come into contamination of blood that has some of the viruses or bacteria or the fungi that cause pneumonia. So what are some of the factors or predisposing factors that tend to make somebody susceptible to acquiring pneumonia? So let us progress, look at these predisposing factors. Okay, so one of the factors is recurrent upper respiratory infections. So if you tend to have recurrent upper respiratory infections, such as maybe tonsillitis, frequently this week, next week, the other time again, you have these infections, they can progress from these upper parts of the respiratory system and go down to the lower respiratory system, and they can make you develop pneumonia. Apart from recurrent upper respiratory infections, there is also issue of lowered immunity. So in a case where somebody has a compromised immune system, either through some of the diseases such as infections with HIV that progress to AIDS. So HIV virus tend to compromise immune system of people, and in a case where somebody has compromised immune system, they become prone to infections such as the same infection that cause pneumonia. So pneumonia tends to be the opportunistic infections, meaning it tends to develop when somebody has a lowered immune system. So let me clear one issue here. When it comes to lowering of immune system, of course, it's not only HIV that can lower immune system. We have other factors that can lower immune system, such as maybe compromised diet that can make somebody have low immune system. Stress can also lower immune system. Not having enough sleep also can lower immune system. So in a case where you have a lowered immune system, you become prone to acquiring some of these diseases such as pneumonia. So low immune system can make you acquire pneumonia. What is another factor that can make somebody acquire pneumonia? There is also inhalation of foreign material into the respiratory passage. What do we mean here? We're talking about in a case where you have heard people being advised not to be eating whilst sleeping, because some of the food content they can find themselves into the respiratory system. So of course, when you swallow your food content, they normally pass through the mouth there into the pharynx, which is the throat. So at this point here, behind the trachea here, of course, there is the esophagus, which is the passage of food into the stomach. So in a case where you are eating while sleeping, food can miss the esophagus and enter into the respiratory system, and that food content, as it drops in this respiratory system, they can start decaying there, decomposing, and microbial agents, bacteria, parasites or fungi can start developing from the same food that is rotting in the respiratory system, and that can be the root of infection into the respiratory system that can progress into somebody having pneumonia. So inhalation of foreign materials. In this case, we have the issue of inhalation of what? Foreign materials. So anything that is foreign from the respiratory system can make somebody have these infections. So be careful as you eat. Avoid eating while sleeping, or maybe eating while talking, because you can get choked and food will drop into the respiratory system, and that food content, as it decomposes or decays, it can start generating microbial agents that can cause somebody to have what? Pneumonia. So apart from inhalation of foreign material, there is also issue of prolonged exposure to cold. Of course, this statement, most of you people have heard it. So to clear the statement here, coldness doesn't directly cause somebody to develop pneumonia, but what is the link between coldness or exposure to cold and pneumonia? Of course, the respiratory passageways, it does function to trap some of the microbial agent and also sweep it. It has some cells that tend to sweep these trapped microbial agents through the mucus upper, and you tend to cough out this mucus that is stained with these microbial agents or foreign particles that are trapped there. So in a case where somebody is exposed to extreme cold, of course, this function tends to be compromised to a point whereby this mucus, of course, the respiratory system is going to produce more mucus, and some foreign materials such as bacteria, fungi can be trapped in that mucus. But now there will be a problem in a case of sweeping up that mucus. So when it is too cold, that function tends to be compromised, and hence these microbial agents, they tend to stay for a longer period of time in the lower respiratory system, and that's how the infection can develop, or they can descend into the lower parts of the lungs, because that functions of sweeping up these trapped microbial agents tend to be compromised. So mostly some studies, that's what they tend to point out. And most of the times when somebody has pneumonia, of course, they tend to present with difficulties in breathing, and also some sharp pain in the chest, known as akalaso, of course, that is in Bemba. Then in Lozi, of course, it is called the katabi. So that pain, that sharp pain, of course, is due to infection and also the disease process. So I think you have learned something from this episode. concerning the factor that can make somebody develop pneumonia. If you enjoy these types of episodes, please stay tuned and also help me share this podcast to your friends so that I can reach out to many people as possible. With that said, I'm going to talk to you in the next episode. Bye.